The Battle of Agincourt, fought on October 25, 1415, stands as one of the most significant military engagements of the Hundred Years' War between England and France. This battle not only showcased the prowess of the English longbowmen, but also marked a turning point in medieval warfare, highlighting the decline of heavily armored knights as the dominant force on the battlefield. The clash was marked by strategic brilliance, significant casualties, and enduring consequences for both nations involved. The context of the Battle of Agincourt can be traced back to the complex dynastic and territorial disputes that characterized the Hundred Years' War. The conflict began in 1337, rooted in claims over the French throne and territorial control. By 1415, the war had already dragged on for decades with intermittent periods of peace and renewed hostilities. Henry V of England, a young and ambitious king, sought to assert his claim to the French crown and revive English fortunes in the conflict. His campaign aimed not only at reclaiming territories lost to France, but also at securing his legitimacy and strengthening his hold on the English throne. The campaign that culminated in the Battle of Agincourt began in August 1415, when Henry V led an English army across the Channel to lay siege to the French port city of Harfleur. The siege proved arduous and costly, as the English forces faced stiff resistance and suffered from disease and logistical challenges. By the time Harfleur capitulated in late September, the English army had been significantly weakened, with substantial losses due to combat and illness. Nevertheless, Henry pressed on with his campaign, determined to march through northern France to Calais, a strategically important English stronghold. The decision to march across France with a depleted force was risky, but Henry sought to demonstrate his military prowess and intimidate the French into negotiation or submission. The English army, numbering around 6,000 to 9,000 men, consisted largely of archers equipped with longbows, supported by a smaller contingent of men-at-arms and knights. The longbow, a powerful and effective weapon, had proven its worth in previous battles, such as Crécy and Poitiers, and would once again play a decisive role at Agincourt. As the English army advanced, the French assembled a formidable force to intercept and confront them. The French army, commanded by Constable Charles d'Albret and composed of many of the nobility's finest knights and soldiers, was considerably larger, with estimates ranging from 12,000 to 36,000 men. This numerical advantage, combined with their superior cavalry and heavily armored knights, led the French commanders to anticipate an easy victory over the English invaders. On the morning of October 25, 1415, the two armies faced off near the village of Agincourt, in a narrow field flanked by woods. The battlefield's constrained geography would prove to be a crucial factor in the outcome of the battle. The English army, positioned on higher ground and protected by wooden stakes driven into the ground to deter cavalry charges, adopted a defensive formation. The longbowmen, positioned on the flanks, formed the backbone of Henry's strategy, while the men-at-arms held the center. The French, confident in their superiority, launched a series of cavalry charges and frontal assaults, underestimating the effectiveness of the English position and the lethal capabilities of the longbowmen. As the French knights advanced across the muddy field, their progress was hampered by the terrain and the dense mass of their own troops. The longbowmen unleashed a relentless barrage of arrows, decimating the advancing ranks and causing chaos and confusion among the French forces. The effectiveness of the English longbowmen cannot be overstated. The longbow, with its rapid rate of fire and armor-piercing capabilities, was ideally suited to disrupt the tightly packed French formations. Arrows rained down upon the French knights, penetrating their armor and causing significant casualties. The muddy ground further impeded the French advance, as knights and horses struggled to maintain momentum and maneuverability. As the French attacks faltered and the battlefield became congested with fallen men and horses, the English men-at-arms seized the opportunity to counterattack. In close-quarters combat, the English, fighting on foot, held a tactical advantage over the heavily armored French knights, who were hampered by their cumbersome armor and the difficult terrain. The battle devolved into a brutal melee, with English soldiers using daggers and axes to dispatch their adversaries at close range. The outcome of the Battle of Agincourt was a decisive English victory, achieved against overwhelming odds. The French suffered catastrophic losses, with estimates of casualties ranging from 7,000 to 10,000, including many of the nobility and high-ranking commanders. The English losses were comparatively light, with several hundred killed or wounded. The victory at Agincourt was not only a testament to the strategic acumen and leadership of Henry V, but also a demonstration of the effectiveness of the English military system, particularly the deployment of longbowmen. The consequences of the Battle of Agincourt reverberated throughout the realm of European politics and military affairs. For England, the victory solidified Henry V's reputation as a formidable military leader and bolstered his claim to the French crown. It also provided a much-needed morale boost to the English populace and strengthened Henry's position domestically. In the years following Agincourt, Henry pursued further military campaigns in France, culminating in the Treaty of Troyes in 1420, which recognized him as the heir to the French throne and regent of France. For France, the defeat at Agincourt was a devastating blow to national morale and military prestige. The loss of so many noblemen and experienced soldiers left a power vacuum and further destabilized the French political landscape, already fraught with internal strife and factionalism. The defeat exposed the vulnerabilities of the traditional feudal military system and underscored the need for military reform and innovation. The Battle of Agincourt also had a lasting impact on the conduct of warfare during the late medieval period. The effectiveness of the longbow in disrupting and defeating heavily armored knights signaled a shift in military tactics and highlighted the growing importance of infantry and ranged weapons on the battlefield. This shift would continue to evolve, ultimately leading to changes in armor design, battlefield strategy, and the role of the mounted knight in European warfare. In the centuries following the Battle of Agincourt, the event has been immortalized in literature, art, and popular culture, perhaps most famously in William Shakespeare's play Henry V. The battle's legacy endures as a symbol of courage and triumph against adversity, capturing the imagination of audiences and historians alike. Its significance as a turning point in the Hundred Years' War and its broader implications for the development of military tactics and strategies ensure that the Battle of Agincourt remains a subject of enduring fascination and study.